if we are going to live in this future of billions of AI agents popping up and autonomously conducting economic activity between each other, they need a way to verify with the people that they're interacting with, the other agents that they're interacting with. And so AI kind of makes everything really free and cheap and allows things to scale. But trust becomes scarce in that future. What blockchain brings to AI, right, is trust.
Welcome to The Breakdown. I'm your host, David Canellis. The following conversation flows on from a recent episode all about the intersection of AI and crypto and how new financial primitives might be the key to escaping the supposed permanent underclass. For the best viewer experience, it's worth going back and checking it out if you missed it. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss any more. And with that out of the way, let's start the show. Nothing said on The Breakdown is a recommendation to buy or sell securities or tokens. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and any views expressed by anyone on the show are opinions, not financial advice. Hosts and guests may hold positions in the companies, funds, or projects discussed. Thanks for joining us, Daniel. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Cool. So, I'll address the elephant in the room. Like, the market is tanking, Bitcoin is down, and the rest of the crypto market with it. So like how much of this is cope that maybe, an AI primitive can save crypto from the blood in the streets?
No, for sure. I mean, I think that I actually think a lot of this selling is driven by OG Bitcoiners that could be transitioning their mining operations to AI. So I think that AI is the place to look here, like you're identifying. And I think right now there aren't a ton of very obvious connections between the two technologies, but I think we're starting to see, if you look deep enough in the right places, I think that you can see how over time they're going to evolve to be very synergistic technologies and really rely on each other, right? Like, if we are going to live in this future of billions of AI agents popping up and autonomously conducting economic activity between each other, they need a way to, verify with the people that they're interacting with, the other agents that they're interacting with, a way to get data securely. And so AI kind of makes everything really free and cheap and allows things to scale, but trust becomes scarce in that future. And so, like, if one person can spin up, like thousands of agents on their own, like a lot of the systems that we rely on kind of degrade. And so I think that what blockchain brings to AI, is trust. And so, like, one example of that is there's this new protocol, ERC 8004, that popped up. That's something that we've written about in our research, and that essentially allows agents to establish trust through reputation validation. So think of like agent passports, right? Like, they can register their identity. They have a certain reputation score. There's a validation registry. So essentially, like, agents can, they can use OAuth. They can use your own personal accounts across all the different websites that you need them to, and they actually know that that's like an authorized person behind that agent, right? It's not just some guy that's spinning up 10,000 of these things to go cause trouble. So I think that identity, I think verification, that's something that blockchain solves. And I think that that's something that is worth looking into. The other thing is payments. I think that this is a very natural kind of connection. If you have all these, billions of agents interacting with each other, they need rails that's faster than traditional ones. That are cheaper. Coinbase led the creation of a protocol called X402, which is kind of aims at establishing the foundation for stablecoin payments just directly over the HTTP protocol. And this is built specifically for AI agents. And so obviously you can't directly invest in that protocol, but I think a lot of stablecoin infrastructure, neobank infrastructure, and then the second order effects of that would be lending protocols, right? Where if DeFi yields, let's say, offer an additional maybe 0.5% to 2% yield over like keeping the money in your bank or a treasury note, I think that any rational AI agent would prefer to hold that stablecoin where they can capture yield on that. Now that's dependent on some regulation, which hopefully we get soon that will make it so that stable coins can offer yield as opposed to just banks. And that's like a fight that's going on right now. But I think yeah, you might not be able to invest directly in X402, but as I said, there's kind of secondary layers there, second order effects there, and companies that will benefit. And then I think the last thing here that I think is the most exciting, that could be also the kind of the longest time frame here. So not necessarily something that's very investable right now, but what blockchains really are good at is generating consensus, right? And I think that consensus computing is very big right now for finance, but I think that in the future, it's going to be kind of a critical component for robotics and cyber physical systems and any mechanical system that's interacting in the world, but it needs access to data to really operate and communicate with each other, right? Like, and these systems, they'll need data to train on. All the foundation models need data to train on. I think it's estimated by the end of the decade, all of like public web data will be exhausted. In the deep web, or data that sits inside of companies, it's estimated that they have over 100x the amount of data that sits in the public web. And so I think that that's kind of the great next, you'd say, gold mine for AI, for these foundation model companies. And I think that the only way that data gets out there is privacy. And I think that a lot of the best looking solutions there around like specifically like fully homomorphic encryption, maybe ZK, potentially multi-party computation, MPC. There's actually a lot of crypto protocols that are tackling this. Like in FHE, for instance, the leader right now is Zama. And so I think that investing in these privacy protocols is going to be very important, because I think that kind of the fuel for AI is data. And I think that that's going to be the only way that whether it's, in the short term, AI agents on the internet, or in the future, actual like, embodied AI, right? Like robots running around, like they're going to need privacy rails to communicate with each other safely and securely, conduct economic activity. And so I think that that's the biggest synergy, but also maybe the furthest away. So, I'm definitely optimistic, but yeah, with this price action right now, it's easy to feel down. So maybe I'll throw it back to you, David, on that.
I actually am filled with quite some optimism here in all of that. And it's funny because when you think about what has happened with the narratives around crypto and blockchain over the past year or two, in that it was big to have like the infra, like everyone was over investing in infrastructure companies or infrastructure protocols and projects to the point that everyone was wondering where the apps are. Then it's like we had a renaissance in app building almost. So we got like Polymarket and all that kind of stuff. But now it feels like we are drifting back into building infrastructure, but for a very clear goal, because we have a target. I don't want to say app, but it's like a target market almost in AI development. And now the penny has dropped. That actually we can build infrastructure for a very particular reason that doesn't have to do with, financial asset transfer or something like that, or trade settlement. It can actually be infrastructure for this different new technology. So like that makes me optimistic. Like, and that feels like something that could happen over the, if this is a bear market, it's looking like a bear market, over the bear market. So that's something to build during the bear market. Like, is that kind of how you're looking at it? Like, I'm just hoping that, who knows what's going to happen to the AI narrative as well. So it's like you're trying to build something for a narrative that might also be fleeting. But it is at least some momentum. Like, is that how you're looking at it?
I think that's a great point. And you said something there of, right, these builders now, they have a target audience to build towards, right? And it's building for agents directly, instead of, the upteenth builder saying, I'm going to build infrastructure because that's going to get the most VCs to give me money, and I can launch something at the highest valuation, right? Like, as kind of the low float, high FDV meta dies, and we kind of return towards like a more ground up kind of approach here, something like what a Hyperliquid did, which wants to, kind of bring their community investors along the way. I think that when you combine potentially, right, a more bottom up level capital formation with a more clear and targeted use case here, which is building for agents. Yeah, I think that that's kind of the recipe to spawn some, really great investment opportunities over the next couple of years, right? And you always get the biggest winners in the bear market. So instead of buying, overvalued infrastructure at greater than a $1 billion market cap with significant token supply overhangs, maybe you're buying a cool, agent kind of centric protocol at 50 million market cap with, minimal token supply overhang, right? And it's just your odds of winning there are significantly higher. And I think something that's interesting that happened this last week, and you talked about this, is Moltbook, right? And these agents kind of autonomously interacting with each other. Like, it's just so intuitive to me that these things are going to be using crypto for payments, for communication, for exchanging value, right? Like, if you can build a network or some type of app that is optimized for them to kind of experiment on their own, and I don't know what that is, but like, it to me, like, I think that there really is something there. And we're already, people are already, talking about all the privacy and security concerns with, right, giving your agent just access to your computer as well. So I think that, like, the security, the privacy elements that blockchain brings, I think that that's going to be needed for this type of, like, autonomous, agent marketplaces, systems. And so, yeah, I think that of all the places to look, if we are entering into a bear market, like, I do think that the crypto AI intersection would be a fantastic place to start.
Yeah. Did you pay attention to Alpha Arena? All that playing out?
Yes.
It's like, because this is like, it's the most, that's like the total left curve application of AI and crypto. And it's like, I really wanted that to do better, but it's like, there is, like, I run into, like, I mean, it's the same kind of thing that everybody runs into. It's like, yeah, I mean, if everyone knows what the agent is doing on chain, then whatever alpha it has or whatever edge it has on the market, it's really a non-starter to begin with. Like, so it's like, it's funny that is like not part of the conversation, is like AI-led hedge funds or what have you, or like a tokenized money market fund that is like that is all entirely run by an AI or something like that. Which it's like I wonder if that is like kind of like a pendulum thing too. And it's just like, because to me, like a lot of what you're describing, like, I don't know how, like, consumer level it is. Like, it is like very part of like the corporate structure that, that corporations would want to make money on their proprietary data. So, but it's like, from the consumer side of it, like, is it really, that the biggest thing is that it would be using like AI agents to act as a chain intermediary to kind of like handle like the actual interaction with the chain. Like, so like what I'm trying to get to is, it's like, if there is like an AI primitive out there that will, unlock some kind of economic activity, like, how much of that is geared towards your regular crypto user rather than institutions? Because I still don't know, like, which is the bigger market in terms of the hype, if that makes sense. Like, how do you square how valuable it is to target the consumer versus, the private sector or even the government sector when it comes to this sort of stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I think that at first they're going to be targeting enterprises, right, and private sector, governments. But I think DePIN is actually kind of the best analogy to think about here when you want to see, like, how can consumers add value or how can they get targeted. And DePIN's all about, right, like, taking latent resources that the everyday person has and allowing them to contribute that to a network, right? As I said, I think that as these models get better, I guess the signal for this is the price of RAM, which has more than like tripled in the last, 6 months. OpenAI has bought like, or I think, and Nvidia's bought like the next, 2 years of supply of RAM from, whoever, Intel or whoever makes it. I think that, right, these models running locally on device is going to get really big. And so, maybe it gets to the point where like a consumer could literally just, connect their phone to some application and they can just start passively making money by like renting out spare memory, like something like a render or an Akash. And, that didn't really work with GPUs. I think that, right, like, and it's kind of the state of the market right now. Like these consumer GPUs don't have enough VRAM to contribute to training frontier models. Also, to train frontier models, they all need to be in the GPUs need to be in very close proximity so that they can share data over high-speed fiber optic cables very quickly. There are a couple protocols. One is called Noose Research. Also, Prime Intellect. They're making ways for GPUs to, I guess, talk to each other over longer distances over the internet and still be able to train frontier models. But I think that as kind of the size of these models, or I guess the ability to run them locally, as that becomes more feasible, I think that the whole consumer hardware play actually becomes viable. And so I think that there's some retail interaction there. And then also like advertising. Like I know like Anthropic is putting out these ads right now, firing shots at OpenAI, but like advertising is a massive, massive industry. And if someone can find a way to, essentially make it so that consumers can maybe, give data or their recommendations, or they can selectively submit information about them, like their demographics for targeting things. Like I think that advertising at some level, it's going to get pushed into AI. And I think that that's going to open the door for open source model providers to step in and actually provide a real product. And I think that consumers, like the everyday, I think they're going to benefit greatly from something like that. So I don't know. I think it's super hard to predict, but I think that consumer use cases will be there, just like big enterprise ones.
Quick break before we continue. Blockworks' flagship institutional conference, Digital Asset Summit, is back in New York City this March 24th through 26th. DAS brings together allocators, asset managers, policymakers, and the builders actually shaping crypto's next phase. Not the hype cycle, but the infrastructure and capital behind it. This year's summit represents over $4 trillion in assets under management, with more than 150 speakers and 750 institutions in attendance. Speakers include leaders from firms like BlackRock and Franklin Templeton, senior policymakers and regulators. Don Wilson of DRW will be there, alongside core crypto infrastructure teams across Bitcoin, Ethereum, and stablecoins. If you're looking for a serious institutional grade view of where digital assets are headed in 2026, this is where that conversation happens. Use code BREAKDOWN200 for $200 off. Learn more at blockworks.co/events. Now, back to the show. It's funny. It's like it's like a converging of innovation speeds in a way. And crypto has been pushed ahead a lot, I think, in the past 3 years, especially like compared to what was happening in 2018 and 2019. And then it's just, we had to take a breather almost. And then AI came along. So now it's kind of just ensuring that both these kind of ecosystems are, I don't want to say like aligned, but at least like both have a certain amount of velocity behind them and interest. And I'm hoping that the interest levels can align over the next year or two between AI and crypto, because they've kind of like one's come first and the next one, and then the next one's gone. But maybe they can just both kind of happen at once. And to me, that's like the most bullish prediction that I can think of, is that something like that would happen. And then in that case, maybe you wouldn't have AI only venture funds and crypto only venture funds. There would be crypto and AI plays in one vehicle. And that would I think would mark kind of the very start of the next froth, I would say. How would you feel about that? Is there? I wouldn't say that there's appetite right now, like going from the timeline and what people are saying about the venture capital market in crypto. Like it seems very difficult to raise right now. But I guess, and it's hard because a lot of these venture funds would already have separate vehicles of both of them. Is there a way to kind of square this that would make a lot of sense, that really just crypto and AI just become one space? Because that seems like the end game.
I think it's possible. I mean, I'm not like super familiar with venture, but I do know that like large funds, they do or large venture funds, they will segment their individual funds by category. But I mean, I think just yesterday, A16Z, who I think is the largest venture fund, they released an article saying that that AI is going to be dependent on crypto, right? So I think that the smartest people in the room are thinking about this, and how that the two technologies are going to kind of collide and be synergistic on each other. I think like anything, I think it's just going to take one killer use case, right? Like someone's going to build something that kind of ignites people's, not animal spirits necessarily, but one thing that signals people, oh, like this is real, right? And like the example you gave in DeFi was right, like AMMs and, or, when Compound started yield farming, right? And, I'll never forget DeFi summer, right? Like I think that really captured people's imagination, and that was like, to me, like that created the momentum that's kind of carried us through this moment, right? And I think that like those, like the DeFi primitives are very well established and kind of maybe not the long term winners, but like at the present, like a lot of the winners have kind of been established there. Yeah, I think that there's going to be someone's going to build something that sits at the intersection of these two technologies, and I think that that's what will spark people's imagination again. I don't know if they're ever going to combine into the same thing. Like I think crypto is inherently kind of more back-end infrastructure, right? Like the ideal end state of crypto is that it exists under everything and no one knows that they're even using it, right? Whereas AI, it's a lot more of a consumer. It's a lot more of a consumer facing technology, right? Like you open up the app and you physically start talking to it. Like you can see what it's doing, right? Where the ideal end state of crypto is, crypto doubles the GDP of the globe because it replaces third-party intermediaries and decreases the friction for economic activity. That's kind of like a boring thing, right? It's just kind of improving the efficiency, getting rid of these kind of, leeches sucking value from here and there. But I think that they will rely on each other. I don't know if they'll like kind of combine into the same thing though, per se. But yeah, I think that synergies will exist.
This conversation has really kind of let the kind of light bulb off in my head that it's really like crypto is the thing that will ultimately, like, if that killer app is made, it would be really good if the value could accrue to the users, and even in such a way that they wouldn't have to buy anything to invest in it, that they would just be rewarded for their participation in that app. So it's like that also gives me hope in that you can kind of bypass this concern of like, well, can we even buy the OpenAI IPO anymore? Is that even going to do anything for me? But actually, that if there is some kind of push from like the AI ecosystem to really integrate with crypto in a very significant way, then that could kind of remove a lot of this concern about, tokenized equity and just like ownership rights of tokens, that actually maybe it's just like a tokenless system apart from like maybe stablecoin payments or something like that. So it's that kind of is like, it's hard because you're removing some element of financialization from the process. At the same time, you are kind of creating a more steady environment for further adoption. I know it's a fragmented thought, but how far do you see like tokens and like investable tokens being a part of like the AI crossed with crypto space? Because like a lot of it is like infrastructure, a lot of it is like 8044 tokens and stablecoin payments and stuff like that. Like how would tokens really fit into it? Because it isn't so obvious on my side.
Yeah, and I think this is right. This is the ultimate question, right? And it's like, what is the application going to look like? I don't know if it's going to be tokens or tokenized equity. Like at least I personally believe that everything is going to get tokenized. And really what that just means is that the financial system is going to upgrade from this current like slow, this kind of slow, very disconnected system that's built on 1970s level infrastructure to like a more modern, interoperable, more efficient system, right? And that only happens if all these things, if anything you can buy becomes a token, right? A token, it's just an ownership, right? But the interoperability of tokens, the ease to transfer them, the ability to do kind of right like algorithmic, instantaneous rebouncing of them, like I think that they're going to replace everything now, whether we have tokens in their current state with like DAOs and stuff, or if we just have companies that just tokenize their own equity. And right, that's a very well understood structure. I think that we can debate that, but I do think that everything is going to get tokenized. So I think that what you're probably looking at are companies that solve problems in this supply chain, right? So like whether that's distributed GPU training, someone like Noose or Prime Intellect, something like distributed file storage, right? Like a Filecoin. Like I think that there's going to be primitives that they're required for this agent economy, and those companies will be investable, right? Like once again, whether they're decentralized protocols or they're companies that have, you can just go buy the tokenized equity, and maybe they launch, they ICO because it's 3 kids in a basement and they can't get venture funding, and so maybe right they take advantage of the ability, to raise capital from the public market with something like crypto, right? That makes something like this. So I think like once again, right, crypto, it's more of this kind of foundational layer that's sitting in the background. I do think that it's going to play a part. I don't have the answer of like what that company is going to be, but right, like I do think that it'll you'll see it, and you'll recognize it when it happens. Like I think the whole Claude bot thing, it's not super useful right now, right? Like it can be useful if you're willing to spend $400 to $1,000 a month, but maybe in a year, right? Like you're gonna have a personal assistant that's gonna be very useful. But like that's a technology you see, like, oh, like I'd be willing to go buy like some prepackaged little system that costs less than like a MacBook Mini to like run this thing on in like a sandboxed environment, right? And maybe that thing would integrate crypto in some way, right? For like payments or the ability to yield farm, right? So like I think that it's coming, and those protocols will be investable, but yeah, I just don't think it's been built yet.
We're so early, but.
Yeah.
But cool. That's about all the time we have for today. Thanks so much for joining me, Daniel. And yeah, good luck. If this is the bear market, good luck for the next year or so.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, David.